So in this video, we're going to learn how to create a blank repository for Git. And I'm going to be using the Mac terminal, but the instructions again for the last time, given that I've shown them in a few videos now. For Windows, this is how you start the Git bash shell. And we can either look for it here. If we've got an icon added there, we can look at starting it that way. Or I can scroll down to G, the app starting with G, and I can start Git bash that way. What I'm going to do for the first time, I'm going to pin it to the start. So I could have started Git bash from there, or now that I've actually pinned it to the start, I've added a shortcut effectively, I can start it that way. Either way, start the Git bash shell. Once you've done that, we're good to go, and let's continue on. And for Linux, this is how you get to the terminal. We'll get to the bash prompt so you can actually start typing some commands. So all we need to do is come over here and click on this button, and we can just click on terminal here, or if that wasn't showing up for some reason, we could just type the first few letters enough until terminal comes up. And just click on terminal, and at this point we're now ready to use the terminal and to issue some Git commands. But I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to do a command space, type term, select terminal, and we're ready to go. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to create a folder, a repository home folder that I'm going to be using for all the repositories that we're going to create and use in this course. So I'm going to check that I'm in my home folder, pwd, and then I'm just going to make a directory. I'm going to call it Git Repos Home. You can call that anything you like, but this is going to be the folder where we're going to do all our work. Alright, so I'm going to navigate into that folder by typing cd space git repos home, and I can do an ls, and I can see the location. And what I'm going to do now is create our first repository. And by the way, repo or repos is just an abbreviation for repository. Fairly common to call them repos. So we're going to make a subfolder, mkdir, and we're going to call this one blank repo. And we're going to go into that folder, cd space blank repo, check the folder again. You can see that we're in that folder. Alright, so what we're going to do now is initialize the Git repository. So I'm going to type in git space init and press enter. And you can see it's come up and said that it's initialized an empty Git repository and showing us the folder, and noting that it's created a subfolder called .git. Now the first thing I want you to notice here is that there's a hash sign now in our folder. At the previous command line, when we typed in the git init, you can see that there wasn't anything in the prompt to indicate that, but now we've got this master and a hash showing there. So the hash at the moment is to indicate that we've got a blank repository, and this will change to a plus when we issue the git add commands, and a star when we actually modify files, but you'll see that in upcoming videos. Note also the word master showing there, and that indicates that we're in the master branch. And the master branch was specially created by Git for us. But we'll talk more about that as the video goes through. Now note that alternatively, we could have created the repository directly, issuing the command git init. So we could have actually gone up to the previous folder and typed git init, git space init, and then the name of the folder. So we could have typed blank repo, and that would have created the folder and created an empty repository. But what we did, of course, was we just created the folder, then we changed our directory, our current directory into that folder, and then we issued the git init. But another way of doing it is, as I mentioned there, we can actually just create it by appending the name of the folder we want the blank or the empty repository to be in, and the Git would have done the rest. All right. Let's just go back though into our folder. Notice that you can also type in the first few letters of the directory name, cd space, and I typed in BL and I pressed tab. And usually there's an autocomplete feature in a bash shell, which in this case has matched the blank, and I can just type or press enter, and I'm in that folder again. And we can type with pwd and see that we're in the right folder. Alright, so let's now have a look a bit more at the at what's actually been changed in this folder. So we can type ls space -al, press enter. And you can see that shows us a folder there, a .git folder. So the -a, when I use the ls command, which is basically a way to list the directories and files in a particular folder, the -a displays all files and folders, including hidden ones. And the point I want to make here is that the .git directory is a hidden folder and is the heart of a Git repository. Now, you might be wondering what this dot and the 2 dots is in the directory listing. And this is a Unix thing. You don't really need to know a lot about it, but essentially the 1 dot is a hard link to itself, and the one that has got the 2 dots is a hard link to the directory. So the dot and the 2 dots are reserved names, and it's not actually possible to create an actual file or directory with those names and give it either of those names. Bottom line is they're part and parcel of the operating system, and we don't need to worry about them. We only need to look at the relevant files. In this case, we've just got the one, which is the .git file. All right, so let's actually have a look inside this Git directory. So we can type in cd space .git. So we're now in that folder, and notice the prompt has also changed now. So we've got this git _dir and an exclamation mark in parentheses to indicate the special significance of this particular folder. And we can type in an ls space l, or -l I should say. And we can see there's quite a few files that have been created in there, or directories. Now, it's really beyond the scope of this course to go into the details of what's in these directories, but we will be talking more about this as we go through the course. Essentially, think of this as the Git database for managing the repository. So this is a special folder that's used just by Git and managed by Git to handle everything, to handle all the version control capabilities of Git. All right, so we can do a cd space ... to go back to the previous folder. And I'll just do a clear again now. pwd, and we can do ls-al. And you can see we've got the Git folder. All right, so at this point, if you were wanting to add files, you could do that. You could add, create, edit files within this directory, and also add those files and directories to Git version control. And I'm going to show you how to do these things in later videos. Now, I mentioned briefly the concept of a branch, and we haven't talked about branching yet, but a branch in Git represents an independent line of development. Now, branches serve as a place where edit, stage, commit processes occur, and remember that we've talked about that process in earlier lectures. But branches can also be considered as a way to set up a new working directory, staging area, and project history. For example, we might want to use the master branch, and we saw that master, and it's actually on the screen now. So that master branch might contain our production ready code, and maybe we have a development branch or a QA branch to contain our code for ongoing development process and so on. So in other words, we could have 2 separate copies of our file, our projects, and be able to work on both independently with each branch not directly affecting the contents of the other. So the idea there would be the development branch is where you do your testing, and once the bugs are sorted out and fixed, you then send over the relevant files to the master branch for production deployment. So that's really the idea of branches, and we'll be talking more about branches in future videos. Alright, so that's the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to have a look at how to convert a plain project, like an existing project, into a Git repository. So I'll see you in the next video.